review. You ruined it for me. I'm never gonna be able to do this now. So Paradigm, you can find it on Steam for $14.99. It was released April 5th from Jacob Janerka, the developer and publisher. Paradigm is a point-and-click adventure game set in a surreal fantasy world. The main character, named Paradigm, is a result of a failure of a company called Dupa Genetics, the prodigy children creating company. While creating a certain prodigy child, a horrible mistake was happened, and Paradigm was mutated into what we now... He's like, what does he look like? A big mushroom-headed dude, I guess?
I would say that he looks like a thumb on a thumb.
A thumb on a thumb. There you go. With a few warts on it, too.
Yeah, a warty thumb with a thumb.
So our warty thumb is dumped into an abandoned Soviet bloc town. He is a entrepreneur trying to become a DJ, spinning the fat beats.
Yeah, the fat beats.
Fat beats, PH. You know, it's real 90s. In this game, you're going to encounter amazingly weird characters, from a 2-foot drug dealer riding a elderly man on roller skates to genetically modified sloths and a knight who serves as a secretary. What the fuck did you think about this game?
Well, my expectations were, just based off the art style, I was thinking immediately Earthworm Jim, which I loved Earthworm Jim franchise. I kind of like had a weird worm crush on him.
Yeah.
Which I am not ashamed to say, but I feel like I should be. And I also was thinking of Grim Fandango. Obviously, that's his historical point-and-click adventure. And my expectations were that I knew this was going to be weird. I wanted it to be weird, and I thought it was gonna. I really thought it was gonna prevail. Those were my expectations. What about you?
Yeah, like screenshots of this game, looking at the artwork, it's just out there. It's like there's weird games, and then there's like this game that just takes it further. I was really excited to get in there. You could tell this developer. I don't know, like, if it's a team or not. It's a weird name for a development team if it is, but it looked like they were having fun making it just by all the craziness and nonsense going on. So I was excited to get in this game. I don't think I've played a point-and-click adventure since Leisure Suit Larry 20 years ago, maybe. Like, how long has it been since I picked up a game like this? I couldn't even remember.
Right.
So, what are the things you kind of like about Paradigm?
Okay, so I guess the most powerful element of this is, I would say, the thought put into every character.
Yes.
There's no character that you run into in this game that hasn't been thought out, and that doesn't have... It seems like they put a story behind every single one. Mm-hmm. So there's no NPCs or no other players in the game, and I shouldn't use the term player because it's single player, but there are no other characters in this game that you run into that just don't have a purpose. Even if they're short-lived, there was effort put into them, and I really, really liked that.
Yep. I'm going to agree with that. Like, from the... literally there is a potted beat who described that he just spits beats for money. The computer character you first encounter, that's like your computer as a Paradigm's computer, he has a whole thing where he's like an asshole to his owner. All the characters really matter, and I think like the developers really loved the game that they were making. Everything's very unique in it. I don't think I've ever seen art style quite like this. In the video games, definitely not. It almost felt like an Adult Swim TV show. We played a video game from Adult Swim last week to review, and this week it felt like this art style would fit perfectly on their channel and whatever show they're doing, because it's just beautiful and weird, and like I loved every bit of what they made.
Yep. I also, the art style, speaking to that, outside of just the character development, the art style was definitely on my list as well. I felt like I was just playing a meme.
Yes.
This game is just a fucking giant meme. That's what it is. It's a giant freaking meme, and like everything's a meme. Everything is. I don't know. Oh, so, but I liked it. You know, we're a meme generation.
It's a point-and-click meme.
We can't escape memes. This is just who we are, and I feel like this game does a good job of using that, and running with it, and being the best at it, you know. But I also, I guess the final thing that I really enjoyed about it was just the cutting of the story. There are multiple points where you're going into like advertisements or this or that. They do a really good job of keeping the story fresh throughout.
Really
the story
great
in and of
pacing.
itself is really wild, but the cutting, the editing, I would say, I'm sure they had a plan for this, storyboarded out, but the editing of it and how they spliced it up was done well.
Mm-hmm. And I think to go back to your meme point, this game is funny. Like, it's laugh out loud funny when you're hearing some of the text going on. And I think that's something that's really hard to pull off in any kind of written form, especially in gaming. Maybe it's just my particular type of humor, but I know my girlfriend was sitting next to me watching me play this, and she was laughing at a lot of the jokes and the gags they were pulling. So definitely kudos to them. I think my biggest thing is, like, you know, it took me a little bit to kind of find my groove when I started playing this game because I haven't played one of these in so long, and it felt really weird at first. But once I kind of settled into my groove, I really started to love the game. And I think it was what you're talking about. It's like the editing, the pacing. You're not sitting in one scene for too long. This isn't a point-and-click game where there's going to be 30 or 40 objects to look at. It's just, it comes at you quick. Here's what you need to know. Maybe there's a few funny things, and then you're moving on to the next scene.
So I guess I was talking about the memes as far as the art style. I personally was not a huge fan, so that's actually my number one.
Of
the
things we
humor.
didn't like?
I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought that you're like,
why did we
like
do a
you're gonna
podcast
punish
together? You didn't think this game was funny? This thing was hilarious.
Okay. I thought that there were parts of it that were funny, but there were other parts where I was like, I'm not 12. No offense, Brian. But that just wasn't, there were some parts that were just it was reaching too hard. It was like trying to be funny throughout the entire game. It was trying to be wild throughout the entire game. And at certain points, it was exhausting a little bit for me.
I'll
I
give you
will
that.
say, though, there were parts that were funny. I enjoyed, like, the beatboxing beat, you know, like there were very clever parts, but then again, you know, there were other parts where I just felt like this is getting a little tedious. But I also understand that humor is so subjective that a lot of people really like this.
Yeah.
It's just not totally my type of humor.
Yeah, I guess this is like kind of akin to like Family Guy. They do hit the nail on the head with the hammer. You know, the jokes are like hitting you. They are really obvious. I'll give you that a little bit. I guess I am a little more juvenile. I would say more youthful in my humor.
I'm just an old hag. It's fine.
Yeah.
I understand.
Young at heart right here. I think my only dislikes I really pull from this game kind of have to come from just the genre of what it's playing in. I don't think adventure games are kind of my thing anymore. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I could dig into the genre any more than this game, except for like Telltale games. Because Telltale games are kind of like point-and-click adventure games, but they're taking point-and-click adventures and bringing it to a modern era, where this game is like specifically like you played when you're a kid on a floppy disk. That's what this
Right.
game is. And like that's my biggest dislike is they really didn't do a lot to bring you to modernize the genre besides the art style and the sound, which are fantastic. But it's a point and click game that you could have played 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that. I think, though, that there is a love of that genre. So while I totally am with you, and that was actually one of the things I felt like I was playing an older game, and I didn't necessarily expect that because of the art style and everything, and because of the trailer. I thought I was going to be playing something a little bit different. So I was a little bit let down. But I think for the people that love this genre, you are going to be pleasantly surprised and happy with it.
Sure.
The last thing for me was just really that they dropped off a little bit. You know, you're introduced to this sociological, like, issue of genetic engineering, and then it doesn't really run with it. The story is so broad, I guess is the best way to describe it, that it doesn't really focus in on that. And I was like, oh man, we are going to get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to do to these children. And I told you that we had talked about this at work earlier, and I'm like, this is so convenient.
Yeah.
Like, this game will solve these problems for us and you know, it totally didn't do that. It just turned into like, we want to be an electronic musician, we need to put our EP out, we got to deal with the sloth that's puking, you know, and I know this is a total personal thing, but I wanted it to solve the world's problems, and it didn't. So well, that is a negative for me.
There.
Yeah.
I guess, like, for my final thoughts on the game, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're looking for a point-and-click adventure, you kind of want to dip back into genre and revisit your youth a little bit, get a little crazy and nostalgic about it. This is definitely the game to do it in. I wish they could have done more to update it a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. This is a really good game. It's a solid $15 buy for me. What about you? Final thoughts?
I'm a thumbs medium.
Thumbs
I'm a thumb
medium.
Sideways. I'm a medium thumb.
Heard that.
I only have a hard time giving this game a solid thumbs up, just because when I think about all the people that I know, if I was to just say, you have to go out and buy this game, I think that some people might be disappointed, just because of my main issue with it being a little bit, the humor being a little bit tedious at times. Mm-hmm. However, I cannot give it a thumbs down either, because it is an entertaining game, and it will provide some laughs. You're also going to get a decent amount of gameplay out of this.
Oh, yeah.
For a point-and-click adventure. Those games sometimes go very quickly, and you're getting a decent amount of gameplay, and you'll have fun. So I'm a medium thumb. I'm a midway thumb.
Holding it sideways.
I'm a thumb on a thumb, but it's going sideways.
There you go. Paradigm. You can find it on Steam for $14.99 from Jacob Janerka, developed and published by them. One thumbs up, one thumb sideways from the Backspace Nomads.